On today's show, we have a viewer who sent in a question from Frank, aka Cisco Leone, and he has questions. One, about moving to Matagalpa and having a lawyer go over the paperwork for a long-term or reasonably long-term rental, and about street photography using my favorite brand of street photography gear, same one that I'm recording on here, the Fujifilm. So we're going to be talking about photography in Nicaragua and the process of bringing lease agreements to a lawyer, or how you should go about ensuring that a agreement with a rental property it goes the way that you would hope that it would go. So thank you so much to Frank who sent that in, and we're going to get to his questions directly out of the horse's mouth right after the bump. All right, on today's show, we're going to get straight into Frank's own conversation. For any of you who want to send in video questions like this, all the information you need to contact me or to send in a video is in the show notes. Just go in and check that out. My email's in there, my social media's in there, which we're going to talk about a little bit, and answering his question and how to send in a video question. Of course, if you don't feel comfortable or don't feel you can make a video question, get down in the comments and ask your questions there. And of course, just leave comments and say hi and so forth. But with that, we're going to let Frank ask his question in his own words.
Hello, Scott. My name's Frank. I'm one of your YouTube followers, learning a lot about Nicaragua and the country. And I must say, I've learned a lot from your videos. I live here in Miami, Florida, and I'm just getting ready to get out of here. Move out of the country and go down south. And watching your videos, it's really been, it's been good to learn about the different things. You give a good perspective of life over there, and I've really enjoyed your videos. And so I thought I'd send some questions, well, at least a couple of questions, to see what your take is on it. And one of them is, I like photography. I've been out of it for a while, but I'm just getting back into it. About a month ago, I got me a nice little camera, the Fujifilm X106, and so I'm going to take that along with me. And I find that Nicaragua would be nice to shoot like street photography, the people, the villages, the towns. It'll give me a chance to explore more of the country and enjoy just the scenery and take some pictures at the same time. So I just want to get your take on it. I like street photography. I know there are restrictions there, especially when it comes to government officials and disturbances, protests, and stuff like that, which I'm aware I need to stay away from. But other than that, hopefully the people are friendly, and I'll enjoy photography there.
I'm going to break up his question so that we can get directly to it after he asks it, so that it's fresh for all of you. So thank you so much. This is awesome. So I'm a photographer as well. I used to be a photojournalist, so I really appreciate street photography, even though I don't do that much. I love it as a concept and a process, and I love following photographers who do that, and there isn't enough of that here in Nicaragua. So someone taking that seriously as a hobby, of course, would be fantastic. There's no money in it, so don't think you're going to be making this into a career. For anyone who's watching and going, ooh, is this a business idea? It is not a business idea. But it is a lot of fun, and Nicaragua has a lot to offer in landscape and travel photography and street photography. We have a number of cities. We have a lot of gritty life here, and I do want to point out a few things. One, Frank has the Fuji X100 Mark VI. I want this camera so badly, but I can't justify it for what I do. In the future, Frank, I do want you to send in more questions, and I want you to film yourself using that camera. Put it on Nostalgic Neg. Trust me, it'll be fantastic. But that is an amazing camera for doing videos. I've thought about getting it for a couple different things, but it's very limited in its video usage, so I can't justify it. I will be getting the XM5 sometime soon as my secondary rig. I'm on the XS20 right now. This is Nostalgic Neg that you're watching for the look and feel. When I'm doing street photography, while I could use my Fuji, and I would certainly use an X106 if I had one, what I do use is this Olympus. This is the EPL 7. I'm sorry, no. What I want is the EP7. This is the EPL9. I love it in the mocha colored. It also is the same model that came in the denim, but it's very hard to find. This is interchangeable lens. So this is a little bit bulky, but this is the 17 millimeter, which is a 35 millimeter equivalent, and is fantastic. This is what my daughter used while we were at Selva Negra recently. And if you follow my Flickr feed, you can see the photography that she did there and loads that I take with this camera. I'm a member of all the camera groups for all the different cameras that I use. This is an amazing camera. I would like to replace this with the EP7. It's one step higher, a little bit more pro, but I love Olympus and Fuji. They're my main cameras. I also use Nikon a bit. I am a camera guy, and since I live here and have lived here for a while, I've had time to accumulate a few different cameras. I'm just going to show. This is, I do, not for street photography, this is fine for that. This would work. This is a traditional DSLR. I use this for event photography, so I do quite a bit of that. But I do think, okay, so to get to his question, I think street photography is a great thing to do here. Absolutely. I think that you'll find an audience for viewing that, not for paying for it, but for viewing it. I think you'll find an appreciative audience both here in Nicaragua and abroad. And street photography doesn't have to be location based, right? So you easily can get into street photography groups, for example, in Flickr and in other platforms where you can share that photography pretty easily. And I've got 2 platforms that I use, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And they're all in the show notes, but I want to talk about them so you guys understand what they are. But now, you worried about, or you mentioned a concern about some places where you can't film. And of course, like anywhere, there are places where it's generally advised not to film. However, here in Nicaragua, those are few and far between. I've actually never been in a situation where I couldn't film. Now, there's a couple things you mentioned, and these are generally good advice for anywhere in the world. If you see police or military, generally you don't want to film them. That being said, I don't pull back and avoid filming police or military here in Nicaragua. Now, I'm doing video, which is much more intensive, right? If you're doing just a photo, it's easy for a cop to be like, I don't want my photograph, and you just flip through and go delete, and that's it. If you got video, it's a much more complex thing. You got to watch the video. Where did he appear? Is that the only place he appeared? Did you get audio? Like, there's a bunch more to it. Never ever in all my filming, and you guys only see so much of what I film, there's tons that hits the cutting room floor, have I stopped filming because there were police. I don't go out to film the police. I'm not like following them around going, I'm going to film you, right? But in going around, there are police from time to time, and sometimes I get photographs of them. That does happen, not very common, because you kind of have to point it at them intentionally, right? Like set out to do that, or they're in the background of something, or there's videos and they're just in the video because you drive by a police stop, or they're on a sidewalk as you walk by. I get the police pretty regularly. Never once have I gotten a sideward glance. Never have I been asked not to film where I am. Never have I been asked not to film the police. None of that, right? So in general, feel pretty confident if you're not targeting the police as the thing that you're trying to film. You probably have no worries that there are police there. If they're just going about their business as part of normal life, they're very normal people and they're happy to be on camera. If you ever have an issue and you want to film and there are police where you want to film, simply make eye contact and, point out that you have a camera. For street photography, a little bit less necessary because you'd be photographing the police. It'd be like an obvious thing. But if you're doing like video, like me, all I have to do is make eye contact and if they want to stop me, they can, and they never do. So that little bit of comfort, I think, is enough. But the idea that you can't film the police or anything like that is completely an American propaganda thing. And it's true in many parts of the world that you're not supposed to film the police. And it's true in many places, even very safe, nice places that, we would not be concerned about in general. But when I was in Argentina, I was stopped multiple times by the police and not allowed to film on public sidewalks, in public parks, very, very public places. They'd be like, no, sorry, this area you can't. Now, never were they threatening, never were they scary, never were they rude, nothing like that, right? But they would come up and say, I'm sorry, you can't film here. They never made me delete anything I had. They never made me leave. Nothing like that. Just, please don't film here. I'd say, now, the one thing they should have been really clear on, I said, where can I film? How far do I have to walk? Is it that building? Is it the next block? Is it across the river? They couldn't tell me where I could film. They could only tell me an area of indeterminate size where I couldn't. That could have been handled better, but I understand they're just given a task, don't let people film here, and they're not sure where you can film. They only know that you can't, right? So, okay, but that kind of thing, it's common around the world. Argentina is just an example. And all you have to do is be polite, be professional. They'll be polite, they'll be professional. Everything's fine, right? It's not a problem. But here in Nicaragua, I've never encountered that. And obviously, I film here in Nicaragua dramatically more than in any other country. So if anyone was likely to encounter that as a problem, it would be me. And I assume at some point, it will become an issue and someone will tell me at some point that I can't film somewhere. But I don't know where that will be or how often that will happen. But in 4 years of continuous filming and many years of filming over spread over a 10-year period, never has it come up. So really not a thing to worry about. And that includes military. Now, of course, military end up in my line of sight on the camera much less often than the police. The police are in normal places, right? They're on the street that I live on. Any place that you're driving, there's going to be cops. If you're just walking around town, cops patrol, right? So you're going to see cops all the time. Military, you really don't see here that much. Probably a fraction of what you would see in, say, the United States. There's also a fraction of them as a portion of the population, of course. So you don't see a ton of military in vehicles, walking the streets or whatever. If you go to specific locations, such as going around Managua to where there are military outposts, of course you're going to run across military. Can you film in those places? Yes, under normal circumstances. I have never once, again, come to a situation where I was not allowed to film. What I did have happen is one time in a park. It is a public park, but it is a paid-to-enter park, and it is a park that is maintained by the military. It is on military grounds, but they have it because it has beautiful views, and so they have this kind of memorial park that the military maintains. At that park, I was not told that I couldn't film. What I was told is that I couldn't film with anything more than a phone, which is a little bit weird because my phone is fantastic and the footage coming off of it will look to you just like I took in a big camera. So it's more about they don't want people walking around with big cameras or something. They don't want tripods. Okay, maybe that's what they're trying to do. I'm not sure, but I was 100% told absolutely I could film photos, video, completely okay, but it had to be a phone, or if I had something really tiny like a phone, I'm sure they would have let that go. The X106, if you'd have slipped that in your pocket, I'm sure they would have been fine. I had a rig on a tripod. They're like, sorry, you got to leave that, but your phone's okay. That is the only time. I have been stopped by the military. This is not common. But when filming, I have been stopped by the military, but only because they wanted to be on camera and I panned past them too quickly. And they're like, whoa. And I come back and they're like, hey, and they just want to be on, right? Because like everyone else, they're just normal people doing a job and they find social media and being on camera fun like everyone else. They're not concerned about anything. This is not a country where people are generally concerned about being on camera. Of course, there's always someone who doesn't want to be on camera, obviously. But overall, people want to be on camera far more than in other countries where I film. Bolivia, Argentina, United States, Europe, you name it. People are mostly just whatever. I don't care. I'm not going to look at the camera. Do what you want to do. Here, people are much more like, hey, can I get on the camera? Because it's not very common. So even police and military are more likely to make a point of being on your photography or in your video rather than trying to avoid it. So that idea that those are things you have to really watch out for, that there's all these areas you can't film in, I'm not aware of any. And people often have stock answers. Oh, you can't film here, but I know people who do, no problem. Well, you can't film these people, but I know people who do, no problem. Right? So I've not encountered a spot. I don't know anyone firsthand who's encountered any spot where they can't film that you're allowed to be. Obviously, if you break in somewhere, not allowed to film. And it is very common in Nicaragua on private property, especially multi-use private property such as plazas, malls, and things like that where they have commercial customers sharing the space. Often the private business will ask you not to film. I have no idea why, because it's a chance to promote their business. But you can normally go and get a permit to do that. Just go to their business office and say, hey, I want to do a promotional video, or I want to showcase, your property. I think it's beautiful, or I think people will be interested in it. Get the word out there. People see what shops are here. And then maybe they want to watch a video. I have no idea. I know that you can go get that permission and then you can film. That's how the TV crews do it. The TV crews go in and film places, of course. And the same thing in Guatemala. I've been places where they're like, you can bring a phone, but you can't bring anything else. But if you want to, there's a process. Go to this office, ask for it, show them your channel. And because my channel isn't like exposing bad businesses, but rather here's what's on offer in this country, right? We're not going to a restaurant saying this food is terrible or anything like that. We're not doing reviews. We're showing places and trying not to enter an opinion beyond, this is a beautiful spot, the sidewalk's nice, whatever, right? Very, very light views. Most businesses would be very interested in getting any exposure that we have, because someone may watch it and go, wow, that's a nice little bakery in that plaza. Why aren't I going there? I don't know. Why aren't you? Because no one showed it, because you're not allowed to film there, right? So that's something that can be done. But so private businesses are different. It's private property, and if you're there because they're allowing you to be there, they get to choose whether or not you get to film. But by and large, don't worry about it at all. Treat it as even quite a bit more free than the United States, which is generally the rule with everything here. The United States will always say there's all these things you can't do. Propaganda is very strong about this stuff, but the reality on the ground is that your personal liberties here are extreme compared to what you're used to in North America. So I know Frank is from Miami. That is a relatively locked down state. There are very few civil liberties there, even compared to the U.S. in general, which is very little compared to most of the world. So this will be probably a cultural shock coming down, especially as something like a street photographer, where so often there is at least the belief that your rights about that are curtailed in the United States. May not be the actual law, but what's the actual law is not always applicable and doesn't really matter, right? It's what you're going to get arrested for, what you're going to get harassed for, what they're just going to accuse you of something else. Those are all fears in the U.S. Here in Nicaragua, we really don't have those fears. If you're not messing with anyone else, no one's going to mess with you. So don't anticipate problems and don't worry about it. But obviously, be polite, be thoughtful, and always, try to be very discreet or get permission or whatever from anyone that you're taking street photography. It's very difficult. You can't really get permission from crowds of people or just open public spaces. You can't approach and talk to every single person. You can't always catch them, and you couldn't do the photography that you want to do if you are interrupting people, right? So there's a balance. But generally, people are unidentifiable or barely identifiable in street photography. And so it's all use common sense, use general guidelines that you see around the world, and I don't anticipate that you will find any problems here whatsoever. So I wanted to clarify something just a little bit. Frank did mention, in addition to police and military, that you shouldn't be filming like political rallies and protests and that sort of stuff. Now, in general, I would say filming protests probably bad, but I have no experience with this. I've not seen or come across or been aware of any protest in the entire time that we've been here, both 10 years ago and when I was here in 2019 and since then. So that's not a normal thing. I don't think you're going to be running into protest or anything like that. This is not like the U.S. where there's constant protests going on. It could happen, of course. Protests are a thing that happens anywhere. Latin America loves to protest. So be aware that, yeah, there could be one, and filming at it, probably not a thing you want to do. I would agree with that. But other things, political rallies and so forth, absolutely. Parades, political events, all that stuff, absolutely you can film. If you're in a controlled area, right, where you have to have special permission to access, you had to work to get into it, yeah, you may not be able to film, you can ask, right, but that's basically a private event. It's not an open event. But if you're talking about a parade on the street, whether it's religious, whether it's political, whether it's just community, whether it's national, right, national pride, national holiday, all those things, 100% okay to film. I have put in a lot of time over the years asking, but in every case, it's not you're allowed to. It's a please come film, right? Because they're really interested in getting the word out there. I have never, like I said, yeah, in theory, there's things you shouldn't record. I've never encountered them. There's all these opportunities that everyone wants, community wants, the government wants. They want you to show the country. They want a realistic view of what it actually looks like, what it actually acts like, what it actually sounds like, which is a little bit of a problem because it's always loud music that is copyrighted. So that is always a problem if you're making videos. But as far as photographing people and videoing the images of the events going on, and in many cases recording the audio when it's not copyrighted music, you are not just allowed, you are encouraged to get out and record these things. They want foreigners to have access to what the country looks like. And this has been said by the government, is that there is a very real interest in allowing people a view into a country that is so often opaque because the outside world doesn't give them much of a pulpit to get their imagery out. If you want to see what the United States looks like, it's super easy. There's so many cameras running so many places, you can find out what it looks like everywhere. You want to see what the streets look like, what rallies look like, what anything. You can go see it somewhere. You may have to filter through a lot of things. That makes it difficult in a different way. But with Nicaragua, one of their biggest challenges is that so much of the country is unknown to the outside world. People truly believe that there could be military all over the streets, that police may be on every corner, that there's protests going on, that there's scary things, that there's dangerous neighborhoods. And while, yes, there is some violence, there's no way to have a country with no risks whatsoever. None of these things are as people are told that they are. So the more that you're out simply showing life, whether it's street photography of people shopping at a bakery or whatever, that's a view that Nicaragua, at all levels, from the bakery owner themselves to the government itself, would like the world to see. They're proud of their country. They have a lot to be proud of, and they have a lot of need to prove to the world what it actually looks like. That's one of the reasons why there's no cost, really. There's no visa process for most people to come visit Nicaragua. They want you to visit Nicaragua. This is not a country that needs to curtail people coming in because they're not trying to hide anything. They really want to go out of their way to get it shown. And that's why cameras and such are sacrosanct. They cannot limit these coming in at the border. There are conditions where maybe you would be taxed on certain things, right? Because you're importing, maybe, but even that, generally no. But they can't restrict the inbound bringing of cameras and such because specifically they're not allowed to curtail the recording and making available imagery of the country because it's so valuable to get that out there. So that idea that there's all these things you have to watch out for as far as events and such, absolutely not. Feel free, if you see an event going on, say, instead of going, I should avoid this, say, really, I should make an effort to go record this. I'm not just doing something interesting, not just doing something fun, not just getting a variety to what I'm photographing, but I'm actually doing a service to people who, unlike most people in most larger countries where people are just, a surplus of images and videos and so forth, these are people who are doing things often not wanting to be hidden away, but forced to be hidden away because the world media has no cameras on them. The world media isn't putting in an effort to record them, and it's culturally expensive and not a thing to generally go out with a lot of cameras and a lot of gear and record things. It's just not a thing that comes up very much that people are going to do. And so anyone who's willing to put in the effort and the time and the publication to make this possible is doing a service to everyone involved. So consider that it's completely different than you're imagining it is, and there's going to be this massive opportunity for you in every layer of society to go out and get pictures and stuff of just any type thing. And I'll be really surprised if you ever encounter a significant amount of restriction outside of, again, the private property like malls and stuff where they don't, and even there, like if you're being discreet, no one's going to notice. Now, that being said, social media, where can you put these pictures? Of course, you probably got your own places where you like to put them, places that you're used to. Maybe you have your own web page. Two systems that I use as a professional photographer who's been doing this for decades, as Frank seems to have been as well. One place that I use is Flickr. Now, this is generally only used by professional photographers. This is not a casual system. I do pay rather a large amount for it. I also have more than 55,000 images on there. It also is my licensing platform. All of my images are licensed, or almost all are licensed for public use. They do have certain requirements to go with that, but they are Creative Commons so that you're able to go and take my images and use them in reasonable ways. And I've been told, especially Marcela will find my images on use by businesses and stuff, and she'll be angry. She's like, they didn't tell you? And I'm like, yeah, they really should tell me they're using it. And she's like, they didn't pay you for this? And I'm like, well, they don't have to. I have a license attached to it that allows them to do so. So tons of artists, like musicians that see my work, I put it up on Flickr. It's automatically licensed, and many of them use it in their social media and marketing campaigns. Many of them use it in their media material that they use for sending things out, and they're absolutely welcome to do so. We don't put limitations on them because I'm not going to make any money doing that, right? It's just not reasonable, and I want them to get used. I want them to be appreciated, and I want if I got a good picture of the band, why shouldn't they get use out of it, right? So I use Flickr in that way. Flickr doesn't mean that you can put any licensing you want on there on Flickr. I use it for that purpose so that my photography is available to the world and that people can go out and use it with attribution. So that's one thing. So it's 55,000 photos in a massive collection there. You can go do that, but if you're going to do that, it's going to be a lot to look at. But one of the things I love about that has been viewed 125 million times. So I get a lot of traction of the photography that I do. And a lot of you are not aware that I do photography. So there's this whole realm of things that I do that's a bit different. The other thing that I use here in Nicaragua, and I encourage you, Frank, to definitely do this, is sign up. And maybe you are signed up already. It's hard to remember everyone that's there. But we have a platform here in Nicaragua that is a lot like Instagram. But Instagram has evolved into Reels, into advertising, into a lot of things. That is interesting and makes it money, but isn't what its original mission was, which was a place to share photography in a interesting condensed format as compared to like Flickr, which is really designed around like commercial photography, large format, things you might use for prints and so forth. Instagram was originally designed around viewing photography and making photography accessible to a handheld market. Well, here in Nicaragua and in many places, we have a platform specifically for that. It's known as Nicagram. It is completely free. I encourage you guys to go sign up for this. It is nicagram.com. That's simple, Nicagram.com, exactly what it sounds like. And this is a Nicaraguan hosted, local focus, but you can be anywhere and be on it. Federated platform, if you're interested in the underlying technology, it is a pixel-fed server. We connect to partner pixel-fed servers around the world, such as in Costa Rica and Spain. We're able to share information with them. So if you have a friend who's on the system in Costa Rica, or you discover someone who's doing photography in Spain, you can follow them, they can follow you. It doesn't matter that you're on different systems, as long as you're all on the pixel-fed or an interrelated platform like Mastodon, you're able to share that stuff across the world in the Fediverse. So for those of us who are here locally, it's great to be on Nicagram. Put our photography there. Of course, this is like very carefully selected photography. On Flickr, I have 55,000 images. On Nicagram, I have maybe a few hundred. So I put many fewer up there, but I select the ones I specifically want to showcase and put on there. And I put descriptions, I put tags, and so forth, and so people are able to find them. And I find that we're getting good traction on there, and it's a good place to put your photography and get noticed by a small number, but growing number of people. But for those of us who are doing Nicaraguan photography, it's a great place for us to interconnect because there's so few of us that it's slowly creating a small community, and having someone doing street photography on there as well would do a lot to help out with that. And be sure to tag things, right? Street photography, tag Nicaragua, Nicaragua Linda, and so forth, and you'll find people discovering your stuff in that way. And every Thursday on the live stream, we actually do a live, like we tell people about that and its related Nicaloro.com platform, and get people to sign up. And both are carefully moderated so that you can't just sign up. You have to be accepted on the platform before you can use it. And so we do live acceptance on Thursday, so people who are interested in learning about it and getting onto it can do it in real time. But definitely for any of the audience, and especially for Frank, if it's something that you're either interested in discovering photography of Nicaragua, you want to share your travel photography, you want to do street photography, you want to do landscape, anything, you want to get into birds of Nicaragua, this is an amazing place to put it and share it. And there's no ads. There's none of the reels. There's none of the weird, like Instagram went off and did things. This is just a place to share photography. It's a great little community that you can connect to. I find it a lot of fun to use. Before I go to bed every night, I'm looking at Nicagram and I'm looking at Nicaloro just to see what the people in our community are posting about their days, their adventures, their photographs of Nicaragua. It's really cool. So that's awesome that you have the X100 Mark VI. I hope we get to meet up and I get to play with it, because I love my Fuji cameras and I've never gotten to use the leaf shutter fixed lens on the X100s. They're very, very cool. And thanks so much for the question. And now to Frank's question about the legal process of ensuring that he has a good experience with a rental agreement, and it's going to be in Matagalpa.
The other thing I wanted to ask you is, I plan on going to Matagalpa first. I want to see about getting a rental there. And I understand that I have no idea. It's a lot different here in the United States. Over there, I'll have to make sure that that everything is correct as far as the leasing and stuff like that. So you mentioned something before in one of your videos about getting a lawyer to go over the lease agreements and conditions and that sort of thing. And I want to ask you, is that something I should maybe just get a lawyer locally once I go to see the home that I want to get? And then just, that's what I don't know. Should I ask for any sort of agreement on a written agreement where I can take to a lawyer, or how would I go about doing something like that? And that's really basically it. I just wanted to let you know I appreciate your channel and all the information I get from it. And hopefully when I'm down there, I'll be able to meet you at some point. Anyway, that's all from here. Take care. Cheers.
Thanks, Frank. Here in part 2, we're looking at what should we do when we're trying to do this long-term lease or get a lease on a house. The thing that I would say is start by actually getting the lawyer before you start looking for things. The lawyer may take you a longer time to find, first of all, and importantly, if you find a lawyer that you like, there's every possibility that they will have some connections and be able to steer you in the right direction or even point you directly to houses that are available. Chances are your lawyer is going to be local. Why not? So in that case, they probably know a lot more of what's available or could be available or is often available or what prices should be than you would be able to figure out on your own. So they could be a very valuable resource for you in this way as well as other things. So start with that or at least do them both in parallel. Sure, if you're looking for a lawyer and you're looking for a house at the same time, not a problem. But don't wait to look for the lawyer until you need them. You're going to want to do some searching around, get some references and so forth. So lead with that and hope you don't have to use them as a housing resource, but there's every possibility that you will. And the reality is that most of the places that I've gotten that have been really good are because of having a lawyer or other person like that we've engaged ahead of time, who then were able to bring good circumstances to us rather than us having to find things on our own. So that's pretty consistently been a valuable resource for us in that way. This house included we got because my lawyer said, you know what, I got the perfect house for you. You should be living there. And then we did that. So that is a process that many people can follow. It's certainly not going to hurt you to have that lawyer ahead of time. But by having that relationship ahead of time, even if they don't help you in any house hunting kind of way, you're going to be that much more set to be able to say, okay, I've got this deal I need to have looked at. Please send it to my lawyer, right? Use it in the same way you would in the United States. I have a lawyer, right? They're going to review it. Not, I think I'm going to have a lawyer. I think, you're going to have their name, you're going to have their address, you're going to have their phone number, and you can do all that instantly. So, hey, you know what? You don't have to show me the contract. Send it to my lawyer. They're going to review it. They'll give it to me to review should they approve it, right? That's a great way to go. Now, people do have a lot of problems with that here. Luke could relay some great stories, and maybe he's put it on his channel already, about the complications he's had just getting the contract from the place that he wants to do a long-term lease from. They're dragging their feet, won't give him a contract. Many places here, they're hoping you'll go without a contract. Make sure you get one. Make sure it goes to a lawyer every time. Even for just a rental, it is worth it. You don't want to be exposed to anything unnecessarily. So it's just a great idea to do that under normal circumstances. That's really about all there is to know. There's nothing really fancy. Get a lawyer as early as you can. Work with them for all kinds of things. You can probably work out a deal to have it not be so expensive because you're not coming to them for one thing. It's an ongoing relationship, right? It's this house. It'll be the next house. It'll be whatever little thing you do on the side. It'll be, oh, I need help with this thing. Just pay your lawyer. And in many cases, that's what makes sense. So having that relationship and testing it on small things as soon as you can is good. So if you do have something bigger come along, I want to incorporate a company, I want to do something complex, you've got a lawyer ready to go. And when someone's like, do you have a lawyer you've worked with? You're like, you know what, I have. I've done 5 different things with them. They've always been good. I feel confident in them. Here's a recommendation. A lot of times that's a good way to be interacting with them. So if you're going to be renting a house, right, you're going to get paperwork from the person that you're renting from. Just talk to them like you would in the United States. Just lead off with, of course, there's going to be a contract. That's going to go to my lawyer, and let your lawyer drive everything from there. That's been my experience. Is you really don't need to do much. If you have any questions, call your lawyer. They're going to send over a contract. Should I drive it over? Should they send it? Will they drop it off? Do you know their lawyer? Do you know these people? Right? And just let your lawyer tell you where to go, how to handle it, what they want to do, and so forth. And if there's any pushback, then your lawyer can talk to them, or you can talk to them and work out whatever. For example, yesterday I needed to deal with 2 different lawyers who both wanted to sign an agreement at a different location. Well, put them together, let them talk. It's not a big deal, right? Like, let them work this stuff out. They're lawyers. That's what they're for. So utilize your lawyer heavily. They're much cheaper here than in the United States. They're expected to use them more often. Generally, they are notaries. You're going to be in one place to get everything done and make your life a lot easier. But let them review everything as early as possible. And by having a lawyer ahead of time, you can say things like, I'm looking at this property. And they might be able to tell you, ooh, that's a bad development. Or that's a development with a bad reputation. Or that's a builder that we've had problems with. Or oh, this is a neighborhood that has water issues. There's a lot of just local knowledge that you may not get from other people because they don't work for you in that way. If you have staff and they're well versed in town, sure, they might be great resources, but typically a lawyer as a professional is going to have a much higher income level and have a lot bigger scope of knowledge of the town that you're in or the area that you're interested in than a, say, kitchen worker or bartender that you may interact with would have, because they often have lower income, may know their barrio quite well, might know the middle of town quite well, but they may not know much about other barrios. They may have no idea about legal hassles or development issues or how things are impacting other expats and so forth, whereas a lawyer has a really good chance of having at least a little exposure to that, if not the inside track itself. So it's just a great place to start in general. But I don't think there's any real trick to it. Sorry, it's not a more complicated answer to make this really justified, but simply get the contract, send it over to your lawyer, treat it as normal, right? My lawyer has to review. If they approve, I'm good to go, right? And your lawyer is also a double check on things like pricing. Do you feel I'm getting a fair price? Do you think this is high for, do you think other people are getting this price? Is this high for the region? They can give you a lot of that insight very quickly. They're not real estate agents. They're not trained in this, but they do have, like I said, more general local knowledge than the average bear, generally quite a lot more. So it can be just a very valuable second set of eyes on your decision making across the board to help make everything smoother, more reliable, and probably cheaper in the long run, or at least protect you from really bad things happening. So, Frank, thank you so much for sending in the video question. Please send in a follow-up using the X100 Mark VI, set it to 4K, put on a nostalgic neg. I want to see how good that looks there. And for everyone, send in your own video questions. These are amazing. It's so much fun putting you guys on the show and connecting with everyone. Join us on Thursdays for the live stream. Get an account on Nicagram. Get an account on Nicaloro.com as well. That's like Twitter. We've got great resources for things like this. Get in the show notes. Check out all of our stuff down there. Go follow me on Flickr too. I think you can get a free account still to follow people. You don't have to pay just for following. Leave comments and stuff in the comments section. Of course, like and subscribe. Tell someone about the show. If you want to sponsor us, you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Scott L. Miller. It's like Patreon and helps making this show possible. We do have a lot of cameras. I am starting to travel. We're starting to make a lot of things happen. And just a real quick note about my upcoming travels. I do have to be in the United States for a week in mid to late May. We're doing a huge getting our storage unit taken care of project, as well as my driver's license. So if all goes well and I am able to return to Nicaragua, we will be doing a lot more exploration of the country, finally, with me being able to drive the car that I've not yet been able to make an episode on, our new car adventures as well. That will be coming up, I think, later next week. That is the plan. And boy, that's about it. I will see all of you tomorrow.